Welcome to another of my tabletop talks, and today I'm going to correct some erroneous reporting about what China is supposed to be doing. Australians are being led to believe China is doing something which is going to harm them incredibly. The harm is almost inevitable, but it isn't China doing it. Bloomberg and the Australian ABC are reporting that China has banned imports of Australian iron ore. Murdoch Press is, of course, jumping on the bandwagon, and once again we're seeing it cause a rift in normal relations between two countries which should get along very well, considering that the economy of one of those countries relies almost completely on the other for survival. China hasn't banned iron ore imports, it's merely going through a dispute with BHP, the big Australian that isn't Australian at all, and it's not buying from them until this matter is resolved. Now let's get a little historical context here. China likes Australia and Australian products, but total trade is less than 2% of China's import and export figures. That's almost inconsequential to China. There is a free trade agreement which benefits Australia far more than it benefits China, but it's been in place since 2015. For Australia, the trade number is over 30% of total imports and exports. Australia is the only developed country in the world to have a trade surplus with China. It exports more than it imports, but that will soon change. By this, I don't mean the true figures will change, but the very fact that Australia is a developed country is set to change. It will, if this situation isn't resolved, become a third world nation with first world infrastructure that it can't afford to maintain. I love Australia. I have family, I have friends living there, and I don't want this to happen. So that's why I'm highlighting this problem now. I'm hoping that Australians will see through it, do something about it, and avoid the almost complete and absolute inevitable collapse of their economy. China has worked with Rio Tinto, another nominally Australian company controlled by North American interests in West Africa, to bring huge iron ore mines online. It's in Guinea-Bissau. This mine is due to come online in November this year, but it's being delayed by accidents. Now, some might say sabotage, others would disagree. We'll leave that to your imagination and your own research to decide. This, in my opinion, is the real reason why the story has developed. Let's be clear, BHP is in the wrong here, not China. They've increased their prices and China has been in a long dispute with them. A long dispute, not recent. Both ABC and Bloomberg report that China is the bad guy here, and both have indicated that despite there being no confirmation of such an instruction, that the China Mineral Resource Group, CMRG, have issued an instruction to Chinese buyers of ore, do not buy from BHP. There's no evidence that this instruction has ever gone out. It is denied by an industry watchdog called MySteel, and there's been no confirmation in Chinese media, Chinese government releases, or from CMRG itself. So where this information comes from is anyone's guess. It's never been asked in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs press briefings. Certainly it's not confirmed, it's alleged. And these allegations are being used to suggest China is doing something wrong. What really is the problem is that BHP will lose a lot of business. It's already affected their share price, which dropped 1.1% just a day or two ago. But it isn't just BHP. If at some stage in the near future China pivots away from Australian iron ore, and remember that date is literally a few weeks away in November, the economy of Australia will plunge. And with it, the cost of living will increase exponentially. Taxation will need to increase, service will drop, and the entire economy will need to be rebuilt from the ground. I'm not being pessimistic here, I'm being realistic. Take a look at this image. Just one search gives three completely different opinions, but let's assume the lowest we're talking about as much as almost a quarter of Australia's total exports. If we use the larger options, we might be looking at more than 3/4 of the total exported, and the vast majority of this is one product going to one country. This is why iron ore is important. What is BHP doing by increasing the prices? I can't answer that. and BHP have no information on any of their sites to explain. But when I went searching for information about BHP in Chinese media, it was interesting. The only thing I could find was positive. BHP announcing cooperation, BHP in deals with China, and so on. Whatever it is, Western media consumers are not hearing about that. All we're hearing is allegations that China are doing something there's no evidence at all that China are doing. Why? And this is the $64,000 question. Why would Western media be doing this? First of all, China is not going to be investing in Australia, although they would very much like to. Every time they do, the media screams about how inappropriate this is and what a threat to national security that it might be. The Foreign Investment Review Board are called in to investigate, and media write headlines such as they did a few years ago when China increased its investments by 1,200%. Without putting that into perspective, China went from owning less than 0.5% of all foreign investments to less than 2% of all foreign investments, and they also counted Hong Kong and Macau investments with mainland. This is very, very bad reporting. Australians are not providing a proper level playing field for Chinese investors, but that's because there is massive media and also some very senior US trained, influenced, and even financially supported anti-China players at all levels of government, including inside of Parliament. It's hard for sane decisions to be made in such an irrational investment, so China will invest the big money elsewhere. Who can blame them? And because they're doing that, Africa is going to see a massive increase in sales of iron ore. As there's only so much iron ore that China can use, it's inevitable that there will be losses in Australia. What's happening now is not a real trade dispute. It's a preparation for when that time arrives. When the economy goes into free fall, it'll be much easier to blame China, a country which has, for over 30 years, been Australia's largest customer, than it is to blame policies that drove that customer away. I most sincerely hope I'm wrong, but I'm not convinced yet. Let's watch this space and hope that I am. See you next time.